Welcome. You've splash landed into this Prosecco-laden podcast, straight into the woo-woo pool with the crew of Ohm-g. We're just a simple group of tragically imperfect and highly empathic BFFs, exploring a wide range of atypical topics with humor, grace, and curiosity. This is Ohm-g.
All right, everybody. It looks like we are having a very giddy start to our podcast today. Camille, can you tell us what we're going to be learning about today?
Well, first of all, I'd like to start out by saying welcome to our podcast. This one's a bit off the cuff, and it might be due to Bloody Marys. It might be due to our effervescent spirits. It might be due to our old soul selves. But regardless, you are here with the crew of
Ohm-g, the podcast. Welcome back. This episode's going to be a fun one.
I think so. And beverages definitely help. But today, we're going to talk about dating in the woo and what's sexy to you. So I'm going to start out by saying something that's always been really sexy and powerful for me, and definitely for a lot of women, for sure, is a good voice.
Oh, you got it, girl.
You got it.
You got the voice.
Yeah, but I'm thinking about the men's right now. So
nice, smooth British accent.
Accents are great. But I'm an audible person. So a lot of times when I listen to books, I'll stumble upon something. And even though I might not be interested in the topic, the voice is going to get me. So there is one called Green Lights by Mr. Matthew McConaughey. That sexy Texas Scorpio. And I can tell you this man could just talk me to...
Drive a Lincoln?
I was going to say resolution, but there's just something about a voice. Another thing I really like are some good guns. A man with some good arms.
She's from Texas. Got to have that Second Amendment.
Pow, pow, baby. Pow, pow. As well as a really good cologne that mixes with his sweat, like right in the little V triangle chest hair area.
I got goosebumps, girl.
I'm just saying. So,
are we on the right podcast?
Quite the pivot.
But to jump off what Cam was saying.
Yes, please do. Jump, baby, jump.
Not quite there yet, but getting there. But when you're talking about audible and the voice, and sometimes you can really love a book, but if the performer is not the right person,
yes,
they can ruin the book.
Oh, yes.
And there's been people I've gone on many first dates with where it's like, okay, they look good, their person, what we've been chatting or texting, because hello, age of online dating. And then they speak, and it just kind of ruins it all. And it's like, not to be vain, but if you're going to date somebody or be with somebody seriously, you do want to listen to them.
Ideally.
True.
It's only after marriage that you no longer want to, but
Right.
I've never been married, so I couldn't tell you. I'm a spinster.
A sexy spinster.
I'll hang it on.
Exactly.
But she is still single and willing to mingle.
And looking but jaded.
Yeah.
So jaded.
Alexandra and Camille would both like to be related. So if there's a father-son duo out there who's listening to this, charge your crystals and send us an email at support@omgpodcast.com.
And being 52, I'm open to the father or the son. I'll just be blunt.
So I get the leftovers? Wow, so nice.
No, we'll stick with the father.
So,
well, you never know. Okay.
So escalating to marriage, let's beep, 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 back it up.
Please do.
And talk about first dates and the woo.
Ooh.
So does anyone have any experiences that could be maybe you matched on a dating site or online they recommended, or a blind date, or someone set you up with an acquaintance? Like, does anyone have anything they want to share in that realm?
I have a really funny story. This is Brenda. Whenever Mike and I first met, who is my current partner, we've been together for 4 years. He was, after we started dating, and he was getting to know me, and I was like, yeah, I do energy work and I talk to dead people. And
the usual.
He was like, all right.
It's a good thing you're cute.
Yeah, I know, girl. I got to use it for something. So So he was telling me a story when he was at a winery, and which I assume was with another woman, but whatever, we're not going to talk about that. We don't have past here, you know. But anyway, he said that he was sitting next to this woman and her husband, and the woman was talking about all this woo-woo stuff and about dead people and about ghosts. And he was like, she's crazy. And I was like, yeah, and then you got me.
Crazy and cute.
I put a spell on you.
But to springboard off that, God, online dating. If you've done it, you know what I mean. And if you've never had that experience, then good for you. But, you know, I've openly talked about, like, I'm pagan, you know, I'm witchy, which, you know, my mom was always like, you know, careful when you tell people because there's some real crazies out there. Not gonna lie, there are. But it was always kind of like, should I put it on my profile? Should I not? And putting it on your profile is helpful when it cuts out some of the people who would just say no based on that. But then you get some of the weirdos.
Oh, yeah.
There was somebody who had liked me, and it would come up in one of my matches on some app. And it was not somebody I was physically attracted to based on the pictures and the filters where I left. And then it said something about simping and, like, had these weird pentacle neon things on the filter. And I was just like, no.
Wait, I do have a question. I think you might have addressed this, like, in a different setting, but what is simping?
Yes, please.
Yes. So I had never heard that term before, and I had to look it up on, you know, urbandictionary.com. And it was something, I don't know, it's about something about changing yourself to fit with the woman who you're with or something. And anyways, I was like, I'm not going to be responsible for that.
It's a lot less dirty than I thought it was.
No, but it was just like, it really weirded me out because I was like, it was also the only person who had, like, spiritual listed on their thing. And I was like, is this all that's in my lot?
Right.
Oh no.
It's a cesspool out there.
Well, honestly, I think there are men who are spiritual or guys, but, you know, for a man, it's not okay to talk about it because they're supposed to be the man and masculine.
That's a great point, Brenda Sue.
Yeah, but there are, like, Mike is very intuitive, and he kind of has opened up and told me those things as we got to know each other, but he probably wouldn't put that on a dating profile if he was to have one.
So it's sometimes the people who do, or if you're female looking for a male, I have not come across great things.
It's people who are usually, like, far on the other side of it.
Right.
You're like, I'm spiritual, I'm woo-woo, I'm, you know, witchy. I'm like, but I also want somebody who's sane.
Yeah, you want somebody grounded and smart and all of those other things. So if you're grounded and smart out there, then, you know, Alexandra's single, y'all.
She is, and she's real cute.
She is so
beautiful.
Not that they're shamelessly plugging me, but I appreciate that you did that.
Okay, I'm going to take a minute here and just lift you up a little bit. But I'm sitting here looking at Miss Alexandra, and she's gorgeous. She's in her 20s. She has this beautiful russet-colored long hair, and her little pentagram necklace is just nestled perfectly on her lovely milky white cleavage. And there is a brain on top of all this, is my point. This woman is a catch. You heard it here first. But you were saying.
Thank you, Cam.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, extremely intelligent.
Inside and out.
Rosalie here. I just kind of wanted to comment on what Brenda said. You know, when it comes to the woo, you just hear of women. You rarely hear of men. But in my family, my father is very woo, but will not admit it. But
because it's not masculine,
things come to him very intuition. It's like if he has a dilemma, he are trying to figure out how to fix something. He's a jeweler, and he will just sit there and meditate on it for a second. And it's like, it reminds me of the Jimmy Neutron brain blast, where all of a sudden he's like, oh, I've got it. And he fixes it, you know, just the craziest things. He's always been able to do that, but he will not admit that he is
a channeler,
or intuition or any of that stuff. Men will not admit it. And then my son is very intuitive, but fights it tooth and nail and will not admit that he is intuitive and has these gifts. And the crazy thing is that this runs in the family bloodline. So it's, you know, it's why won't men admit that they are open to this stuff? My husband just rolls his eyes at me.
toxic masculinity is a hell of a drug.
Or
That's exactly right.
sometimes
Stoicism.
you'll find the men who
Stoicism.
you'll find the men who are, and you'll think they're cute or attractive. And then they turn out to be gay, which is great for the gay community and sucks for the women around because you're just like, you're everything.
Yeah.
Or if you're straight, his name is Alistair and he breeds snakes and
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it just that's
But
all I have to
hey,
say.
even if he is gay and he can be your new BFF.
True.
And it all
And we-
makes sense. But now we're going to have a little word from our sexy sponsor.
Hi, this is Chandra. Brenda and I would like to invite you, as part of our podcast community, to join us on either Facebook or Instagram Live each Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern U.S. Time, where we give free oracle readings for fans of the show. Just follow us on our Ohm-g podcast Facebook or Instagram page. You can post or DM us your questions there each week with the hashtag woo-woo-wisdom, and then tune in at 11 a.m. each Friday on our page to watch your free reading. If you can't join us live, don't worry. You can always catch it on the replay. This is just our way of saying thank you for being part of our woo-woo family. Hope to see you this Friday.
So speaking of not Alistair and the snake breeding, but back to the homosexual community, I have some experience from that perspective, obviously. And so my husband and I have been together for 10 years this year. Isn't that crazy?
Congratulations.
And thank you. And married for 7 this upcoming New Year's Eve. And we're just best friends. And I think that we really cultivated a really good friendship and got to know each other really well before we started dating. And that was sort of when I started opening up to my intuition and developing language for my empathy and my anxiety and starting to understand why my brain functions the way that it does. I'm a huge verbal processor, so I'm just word vomiting onto him. You're staying. So anyways, love you. But prior to us meeting, dated some real shitbags. And it's interesting because I don't know what, being a decade out of the dating scene, I don't know what it's like now for guys who date other guys or men who date other men, but there's all these weird, because of toxic masculinity, weird social cues on a date that who makes the first move, especially if it's an online platform, who reaches out first, then who shares their number first to text each other, who invites the person on the date. And then once you're on the date, who pays for it? Or do you just split the check separately? I was always the kind of person, because I'm a verbal processor and empathetic, I try to have that conversation there. So I'm do you just want to pay for each other separately, whatever, and just that way we're on the same page and there's not a miscommunication or whatever.
Or expectation.
Exactly. So prior to being aware of the woo and whatever within myself, I dated this guy back in high school. And, he was nice enough. Joined the military after we broke up. So I don't know what that says about myself, but he
or what happened to him after that?
What happened? Well, I've seen him, ran into him. We didn't speak, but anyways, I don't know what to share, what not to share. But anyways, he took me on a date, quote unquote, once. And now I was 16 and stupid. Who among us,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So he was living with his mom. So I was 16. He was 19, maybe 20.
Mm-hmm.
Which, talk about to catch a case. Looking back on it, that wasn't legal. But
I digress.
But I digress. For him, not me. So, anyways, he worked at Ruby Tuesdays, which, if you are not from the South or America, is a chain restaurant. Not even as nice as a Chili's or a TGI Fridays.
No.
And they have a salad bar, right? So he was a server, lived with his mom. And I just saw, red flags are flying. And I just kept on
But it's
walking.
But he must have been sexy.
He actually was pretty cute. He was
There you
pretty
go.
cute.
There you go.
But and muscular and stuff because he didn't join the military and whatnot. So that was a thing too at the time. And I had this warped perception of masculinity that I needed to date a football player.
Yeah.
Or this super masculine, could just whisk me away. And it's I don't want that. I want to be completely independent and have my other person be independent and whatever. And now I found it. But anyways, beat backing up again. We went on this date and I was driving. And so we are going to, you guessed it, y'all, Ruby Tuesdays. And not only a Ruby Tuesdays, the one he worked at.
Show me a sign.
Mhm.
Any sign.
Yeah. I'm just waiting. Are we not supposed to be together? So we go in and he's talking to all his fucking coworkers. And I'm sitting there in the booth. And then we, have dinner, we're talking, whatever. Like, we were boyfriends at this point because we'd been on several other dates that weren't this. So it's like maybe he got comfortable real quick. I don't know. Then gets the check and asks them to split it. So he gets his employee discount at this Ruby Tuesday. And I got to pay full price for the salad bar. And I drove us there.
And you're 16.
And I'm 16. So anyways, and then, because that still wasn't the explosion in my mind, I kept seeing him, unfortunately. And then one thing led to another, a fadoodle led to a fadaddle, and I got a sore throat. And so I just, of course, accused him. I was like, well, oh God, this must be an STD, because I was 16, fool among us. And so he was texting me and I was like, I'm just sick and I really think I think you gave me something. Like, I just looking back, it's like, how rude of me. But it's also like, he made me pay at Ruby Tuesday's full price.
Right.
At 16.
Even Warren Jeffs would have paid the tab.
And you know what I mean? So anyways, that was basically our breakup. Was like, hey, I think you gave me something. And then I went and got a strep test and it was strep throat, which is totally unrelated to what happened. Thank Lord.
I have a really funny story.
Please.
So this was post divorce from husband number 2, who was a huge cheater. No, husband number 1. Sorry. That was like less than a year. I have to keep them, keep them straight by numbers.
We'll upload a bullet point list, actually, in the show notes for Brenda's relationship history.
As long as they're all scared of you these days, that's all I hope for.
Yeah, exactly. So back in the day, it's like every day it used to take me to a Japanese restaurant. Did that ever happen to y'all?
Where they cook in front of you type thing?
Yeah.
Like a hibachi? Okay.
Because I was going to jump in and say, let's be honest, sushi is not a sexy first meal.
Not.
Don't take somebody out for sushi on the first date.
You get the tuna farts. Girl, it is not it.
Yeah.
Well, there's the parasite risk, but I'm a Virgo and we'll talk about that later. Brenda Sue, you were saying.
Yeah, so I met this person at the place that I worked. He had come in and, it was a little flirtation. Then we decided we talked to each other on the phone because, we didn't have cell phones back then. So we were actually talking on the real phone.
Ooh.
And
That
so
landline.
that's right. So he was going to take me out on a date. So y'all, he had a El Camino. Half truck, half car. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Was there a blanket in the back?
So we're driving down I-40 by Wendover. And they were doing road construction then. So there were concrete barricades on both sides. And you know how busy that road is. It's always super busy. So we're coming down the hill to the exit. Y'all, the car cut out. Y'all, this guy's name was Daryl.
Did you have a brother named Daryl too?
Just wait for it.
Shout out to Daryl's at home, not to offend anyone, but come on, y'all. Have you ever met a baby named Daryl?
So we're sitting in the right lane of the highway with Daryl and his El Camino. And we had to call for a tow truck.
I feel like Burt Reynolds was in this movie, but go ahead.
So the tow truck comes. People are honking their horns at us while they drive by. And I'm just sitting there, oh, Jesus Christ, please take me home.
This is before dinner, right? This is on the way
Yeah,
to
we didn't
dinner?
even make it to dinner.
I see, okay.
Yeah, so
Not
tow
the
truck
sexiness
man.
either.
Tow truck man shows up.
Ooh.
Guess what his name is?
Daryl. Psychic.
So there I am, riding back in the tow truck.
With both
Between
Daryls.
Daryl and Daryl.
Spirit's got a good sense of humor.
Oh my gosh.
That was the first and only date I went on with Daryl.
Can't blame you.
Any Daryl.
Oh, so I want to circle back to what Erin had was talking about toxic masculinity, but not really that. Kind of the politics of dating.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Cam and I were talking about earlier that, we're both INFJs. Right?
Yes.
And so kind of introverted.
Lots of Virgo planets.
Never really been a person to, even in college, I was not the one to go out on Thirsty Thursday and, was not my scene, still is not.
Right.
So we were talking about just the politics of who pays for what, who reaches out, and is it okay? Is it not okay? And I don't know about you guys, everyone, I'm just so sick of that.
Right.
I'm I've gotten to a point in my life where I'm like, let me just be straight up with you. It's going to save us both a lot of pain.
Exactly.
And, I tell you about me and I show you the real me on the first date versus, 6 months in.
Which is awesome.
But it's a lot to get out there. And it's just,
it's exhausting.
It is so exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's nothing so mind-blowing as when you think you found the perfect person.
Mm.
And I will talk about a guy, and I'll call him Jerry, that I met on eHarmony many years ago. He was tall and good looking. He had a house and a pool and a wonderful job and a great dog. He was kind. He was Canadian. I mean, he fit so many checks on my list. Did I say great body? I don't know if I said that.
You didn't say that.
You didn't
I'd
say
like
that.
to reiterate that.
Okay.
But great body. And as the dates went on, he was very, stoic. And I don't think he kissed me till our third date, but he let me know that he was very interested.
Was he gay?
He was not.
Okay.
Very old school, very old fashioned. And yeah, I mean, it was kind of nice and explosive and all of that stuff. But he was, in the end, one of the most boring people
Yeah.
when the sun was up that you've ever met in your entire life.
So it was just fun when the sun went down.
Right.
Yes.
But you can't live in the nighttime all the time.
No, but life will keep you going back for that. You will put up with a lot of boring days
And
for that.
I think it's good to say.
And God bless him. He was wonderful, but
Right.
just not my wonderful.
Shout out to Jerry. We
I
hope you
think-
found something well. I mean,
His name rhymes with that, but go ahead.
right.
Harry Jerry.
Right. I am. Back to speaking of something that's sexy. For me, it has always been, shocker, but like deep conversations. Like
Yes.
being able to carry on like long, deep conversations with a man. And I've never found that before Christian. Like people would not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people get so caught up in the chemistry and the explosiveness, but it's really who you are when you're in a room by
Yeah.
yourself, talking and alone, and
Yeah.
nothing else is going on. That really, to me, I find that sexy. It's like if you can
I
still
agree.
talk when no one else is
Mhm.
there, because, oh man, did I spend a good year of my life on a person who was not right for me.
Mhm.
We'll call him T. So I met T dating online.
Teabag.
Stands for turf. Go ahead.
Which, dang, I was
Sorry.
early 20 something and such an idiot. Aren't we all?
We have all been there,
absolutely.
honey. All
So-
been there.
I was at school in New Jersey at university, and I had met this guy online, and this guy was great. He was tall, he was a lot of boxes, and I was going home for a little bit, and so we kind of broke it off, which dumb of me. I met somebody when I went back home to California, and I think I just have a rule now after him and like a couple other first dates, I should stay away from military people.
Mhm.
I mean, shout out to what they do for
I
us.
get it.
Me
I do
too. I
get
got
it.
stuff.
Thank you for your
strapped
service,
throat.
but like,
Protect
no.
me, sir. You're trained.
Not for me.
Oh, well,
So-
I guess I was the exception, but go ahead.
And I've had a lot of people in my family who are in the military, so
Right.
it's not that. It's just not. I can't date that.
Yeah.
And like you said, Aaron, red flags abound. That I just was like, I was in that stage of my life. I was like, oh, everyone around me like dating seriously, getting married,
Yes.
I should be doing this. So, and I think both of us were trying to make each other something we're not in the long run. So we
Very
were,
common.
yeah,
Mhm.
we had a lot of fun first time, like, dates and everything. It was great. And then he went off to basic training. But there's a couple of stories in here because they're just gold. So one of the
I
first
smell another episode.
one of the first dates that we went on, I went to pick him up at his house because, my car was operational and wasn't held together with like shoelaces.
Oh, Jesus.
There was times where I was in his car and I was like, today is it. I'm not coming back.
I've been there.
Apparently so is
So
Brenda
his
and Daryl.
family was crazy. And I mean, I've been around crazy families. We're all
Right,
our own
right.
brand of crazy. But this one, his stepsister called me some not so pleasant names. And I had never met this woman.
Are they married now?
I don't stay in touch.
To each other.
Listen, if
Exactly.
you're my ex for a reason. I don't hang around. So that was
Or he's at a furry convention in Vegas as we speak.
so I
A
let
wolf.
that go. And I was like, she doesn't know me, not my problem, whatever. We date, he goes off to basic training. He was Christian, and I am clearly not, and he knew this. But he wanted me to go to church with his parents. And I'm like, whatever, sure, peace. What's one morning of my life? I was the most uncomfortable thing I've ever been. And I've been to a lot of churches, different, denominations. I was so uncomfortable with that. I was just rock, Jesus, strobe lights, things were happening. I was
Not rock
this is not.
Jesus.
And,
I have been vetoed by Christian parents of a paramour before, so I feel your pain.
So, well, no, not vetoed. It got way more awkward. We're outside after the service, and his stepmother proceeds to tell me about her nipple piercings and how it does not make pleasure more enjoyable. I'm sure my face was beet red. By the way, he was not there. He was in Texas at basic training. Red flags abound. Keep going.
I'm getting the wrong kind of tingles right now.
So,
y'all, medication for mental health is so important. Whether it is Eastern, Western, pharmaceutical, etc., you should not, this is a PSA disclaimer from just Aaron, I won't speak for the ladies here, do not share information about your nipple rings with your potential future daughter-in-law after a Sunday sermon. Carry on.
So, red flags abound. Another thing that he had asked me, because he knew I was, not Christian, and he said, okay, well, he's like, we were talking about if we ever had kids. He said, well, how would we raise them? I was like, well, I'd like to raise them as like not anything specific, just like they get to choose, kind of.
Once they're
A little
at
more
an
pagan.
age of reason.
Yeah, like a little more pagan, a little more open to things.
Right.
Like pick what they want as long as they don't hurt people. And then he was going
Pretty low
on.
bar, I feel. Yeah.
We accept her for who she is. Go ahead.
Then she was like,
21.
well, how would we teach them morals? And I just went, excuse me, what now? He said, well, how would you teach them morals if they're not Christian? I was like,
Are you saying I'm immoral? Because your mom has a nipple piercing. Let's just get this straight real quick.
So that was
Shout out to any lady who's listening, or man, or non-binary, whoever has nipple piercing.
You do you.
But like,
right. I just don't tell your potential future daughter-in-law
it's
this.
the telling
no.
for me.
After the church service.
Your dirty pillows
front-
are not a topic for the first date.
In front of his father, people. This was just so awkward beyond all levels. So we were going on. I was like, well, because I don't tie it to either, a good place or a bad place. It's just, it is right or it is wrong.
I think they were trying to see if you're open to a threesome, but go ahead.
Oh gosh, I hope not.
What?
Hell.
And then,
Yeah.
then the thing that was one of the, there was a lot of red flags, people, and I stayed because we were trying to make something work. Because I think that's what we thought we were supposed to do.
Yep.
It did not. No longer dating person, wish them well. I, just don't want them in my life. But the other thing that was big was, he thought dinosaurs were put in the earth as God's test to people's faith. And I was just like,
Wow.
no, not for me.
You know what? May he go in peace. That's what I'm going to say about this guy. And I have one more thing to say about nipple rings. I knew a guy who was in the Marines. And he was in Japan and he thought it'd be cool. He and his buddies went out and got drunk. They each got a nipple ring piercing. Well, a couple months later, he was having a crazy dream and he rolled over in the sheets and ripped that sucker out in the middle of the night. And he woke up bleeding from his nipple all over his sheets. So that's all I have to say about nipple rings. But if you have them and you like them, go in peace, my friends. Go in peace.
Enjoy
Shitty
them.
blood. Do.
Can we close this out? And I want you all to say one thing. And I'm thinking of kind of like an album that I had that I think is just the most sexiest thing in the world, because that was our topic.
Sure.
No, yeah.
Avalon by Roxy Music.
Ooh, okay, I have to check that one out.
Oh, my friend. Someone else?
So why is it sexy to you?
Because it is lush, and not the kind of lush that I am. It is lush. It is verdant. It is deep, and it is Brian Ferry.
Okay, we're going to have to check that out.
Mm.
Justin Timberlake, bringing sexy back.
Oh,
I'm bringing sexy back. Ow, ow, ow.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
the noises for you.
It's the noises, yeah.
I get it.
Okay, next.
I want to know what love is by Foreigner.
Oh, you're dating yourself, girl.
Yeah.
That guy had a voice, though.
Mm.
That guy had a voice.
That was
it Luke
that
Graham?
was the ultimate makeout song.
yeah, I did.
Back in the day.
Okay, I have 3.
Imagine that.
So grab a squeegee because your basement's gonna be flooded. The first is called. It's by Six Lack, like Six Lack, but I think it's supposed to look like black. And it's called Free Six Lack. It's an R&B album. It sounds very out there, but his voice is just something else. And then Leon Bridges' Gold Diggers, the deluxe edition.
Yeah.
Oh my god! And then honestly, like early Jonas Brothers, I can't remember what it is, but I literally used to like masturbate to it on VT. But there's a section in one of the songs where Nick like moans this like just guttural. I literally am.
We're
wet
back
right
to
now.
that voice, that McConaughey voice.
Yeah.
So,
And I'm going to add one more. I'm sorry to interrupt. Just one more. It's a group called Cousteau, and I discovered them in England, and it was lush and it was sexy. Go ahead, Alexandra.
okay, so I think mine more has to do with the contents of the song, and I would have to say it's La Vie en Rose by Edith Piaf,
Oh,
because the lyrics, and I like EDM music, and I like slow jazz, and like everything kind of in between. But the part of the song where she's talking about, let me see if I can say it. Il m'a dit de mots d'amour and de mots de jour. Like, oh God, I can't say it now. Sorry, mouth. I do speak French somewhat. But she was talking about how he tells her words of love and everyday words and sweet nothings. And to me, and just like, that's kind of what I'm looking for. It's like, kind of when, so not the chemistry is gone, but when that's like on the back burner, that moment of that person, you look through the world with the rose-colored glasses because they're there, and it's just so beautiful. So that's my
beautiful.
That's a wonderful closing.
It is. So what would you say in closing, Camille?
I would say thank you so much for joining us as we went through our little sexy rants and kind of exposed ourselves a little more than we normally do.
Yeah.
If you guys feel comfortable exposing yourselves to us, we would love to hear your stories of dating in the woo, or just some, good times and some bad times.
Yes. And I smell a part deux coming up in the future.
Exactly.
Absolutely. The only thing that I have left is any of you have advice on how to go about this situation? I'm growing my hair. I don't know. We're not doing a visual recording. And so I'm trying to figure out what's going on because it's messing with my ears, but I want it long and luscious. And I saw this really great hairstyle in a porn I watched recently. And I don't know how to bring it to a hairstylist without, right. And say, hey, here's this photo. Disregard all the dicks. So if any of you at home have any advice on how to go about that with the hairstylist, that would be terrific. And again,
never disregard the dicks.
Just go for the headshot.
And at that,
we're out. We have resolutions.
See you guys.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today. Please follow and subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave a review. It's so easy to do and such a huge help for us. We appreciate your interactions so much. Want to join us at our table? Make sure to check out our YouTube channel and join our Facebook community. If you've enjoyed this content and wish to support us, take a look at our Patreon page. All information and links will be in our podcast description. Catch you next time.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM. Women's voices amplified.